Hello everybody and welcome to Drawing with Waffles. Today I'm going to be drawing my original character from the Pokemon universe, Santuzza, and her Squirtle SUHI, along with her 5 other Pokemon that she carries around in Pokeballs. I created her back in 2011 and I drew her a lot, and I have a bunch of pictures, so I guess I'll show them right here. So yeah, bam, 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 yeah, there's even more than that, and you can see some of them over on my DeviantArt page. I'll have a link in the description. I really haven't drawn Pokemon in a long time, and I forgot how, fun and yet challenging they are, because I'm used to drawing people most of the time, and Pokemon aren't really shaped like people, except for, Mr. Mime and, the Hitmonchamp, but they creep me out. I don't really like Pokemon that look kind of human. They really freak me out, and I always, just left them in my Pokemon box or whatever, and I'm just I'm never gonna use you because you scare the crap out of me. Are you human or are you a Pokemon? I really can't tell. Also, you might notice that all the Pokemon in her team are from the first generation, which happens to be my favorite generation of Pokemon. I still watched the show when the second generation came out, when they went to, was it Johto? I think it was Johto. So that was with Cyndaquil and Bayleaf and all those Pokemon. I do like those Pokemon too, but once you get past then, I really don't know their names or anything. I could probably guess the names for the first 150. I used to know them in order, but when you get a little bit older, you realize it doesn't really matter if you can list all 150 Pokemon in order. Just saying. It's not so cool anymore. So if you can tell, I drew the Pidgeot on its own layer, and then I turned off the visibility of that layer so that I could draw Santuzza, and that way I'll be able to focus a little bit more on her and make sure she looks good without having the Pidgeot in the way, and because I drew the entire Pidgeot just so that I could, figure out the shape of its body and where its wings were, and that helped a lot. So now I get rid of the visibility. That way I can still see Santuzza, because if it was still there, then it would have been in the way and I would not have been able to draw her face. I hope that made sense. It really didn't make sense in my brain, but I hope it made sense coming out of my mouth. So basically what I did was I drew each of the Pokemon on their own layers. That way I could turn off the layers depending on which Pokemon I wanted to work on, and that way I could put my full attention towards one Pokemon and make it perfect. Oh, and in case I didn't draw all the Pokemon perfectly and you can't tell which ones they are, she has a Pidgeot, a Squirtle, a Raichu, a Ditto, and a Growlithe. When I was first drawing the Ditto, I actually made him look more like a muck, because I forgot that Dittos have that weird indent in the top of their head, and once I added that, it was golden. Originally, when I was first editing this video, I had the line art in the video, but it ended up being over 10 minutes long, so by cutting out the line art, I saved myself about 5 minutes. So, I'm sorry, I know you guys like to see the line art, but I really just had nothing to say, and I didn't want to have just music playing, because that's kind of boring, so yeah, I cut out the line art, but it's basically the same as doing the second sketch layer. I'm just recreating it a little bit cleaner, and I use a black color instead. So sorry if you really wanted to see that, but I think overall it was a very good choice. Also, I won't be making a habit of it. It's just because this picture was so complicated and there were so many characters in it that I was really kind of forced to do that. But in the future, if I'm just doing one character, I'll leave the line art in, but if I ever do any more complicated pictures in the future, I probably will cut out the line art, since that is the easiest thing to cut out and not that much happens. And just like that, now we're in the coloring! Yay! That's my favorite part. When I was younger, my favorite type of Pokemon was the water type Pokemon, which explains why Squirtle is my favorite Pokemon. Mainly because I really liked Misty, she was my favorite character from the TV show, and because my brother always picked Charmander as a starter Pokemon, so the only way I'd ever have a chance of beating him when we versed each other was if I had a water type Pokemon. So I always had Squirtle. I never wanted him to evolve, but Blastoise is still really cool. He's still big, huge turtle with cannons sticking out of his shell, so what's not to love about that? But yeah, so I was wondering what Pokemon you guys like to start with. So whatever version you had, what was your favorite starter Pokemon that you've ever had? My first Pokemon game, I was pretty lucky because my first Pokemon game was Pokemon Yellow, and that's the one where you start with Pikachu as your starter Pokemon, and then you're allowed to pick up the other 3 starters throughout the game. And I think Squirtle you get at Cerulean City, and I was like, Squirtle! Yes! So I was lucky. I got to have all the starter Pokemon, but that's not true for everyone, so I was just wondering what your guys' favorite starter Pokemon are. and whether or not you prefer to have the fire, the grass, or the water type Pokemon. I'm just looking at the color keys up at the top of the picture right now, and my favorite one, like the one that turned out the best in my opinion, is the Pidgeot one, because I used like this really thick black line to like outline it, and I think that looks really cool. The Squirtle looks a little weird, and the Raichu is hilarious. But yeah, I really like the way that Pidgeot turned out. And Santuzza is looking pretty darn fabulous. Oh, we're calling Raichu right now. Raichu's so cute. Like, I personally think he's cuter than Pikachu, but I'm probably gonna get smacked in the face for that. But personally, I do think he's cuter. Maybe not my rendition, but in general, he's freaking adorable. Just put Raichu into Google Images and you will not be disappointed. Oh, look at him. Oh, that one's my favorite. Oh, but I'm not going to show you. You got to Google it yourself. Yep. And now we're finally coloring Squirtle because he's my favorite, so I saved him for last. I really like his color combination, like with his turquoise and the yellow and then the orange. And because he's SUHI and not just some random Squirtle, he has the bandana, which is like the matching set to the one Santuzza wears, because it's so freaking adorable. And if you were wondering, yeah, that's a binky in Ditto's mouth, because it's a little baby Ditto. It was just hatched or whatever, however Dittos, I think all Pokemon come from eggs, so yeah, it was hatched, and it's such a cute little baby, so it has its binky. We are now getting to the end of the illustration, so I want to thank you guys for watching, and here's the finished picture. You can see Growlithe and Raichu, and there's Santuzza. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed watching me draw SUHI and Santuzza. And before anyone asks, yeah, my avatar on DeviantArt is a gif of SUHI and Santuzza. And I made that, like, back in 2010, I think. Yeah, it's been my avatar for a very, very long time. So, these characters are kind of special to me. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you guys next week. Okay, have a delicious evening full of waffles. Bye!